If you feel like the software world is getting a little weird, you're not alone. Every day there's a new buzzword, there's a new framework, there's a new way to build things. It's like trying to keep up with the Kardashians.
I'm sorry, the what?
And today we're diving into one of the weirdest trends, the obsession with microservices. I wanted to explore whether they're still the future of software, and if not, what can you do to survive the next 5 years? My name is Elias, I'm a senior cloud architect. Let's find out. So I want you to imagine building software like making a giant burrito. You've got your code, you've got your database, your user interface, all crammed together in one massive, delicious mess. That's the monolithic application. Everything is tightly coupled, making it hard to change or to scale. Now, imagine, instead of one giant burrito, you are given a bunch of tasty tapas. Every dish is small, every dish is self-contained and bursting with flavor. That's the idea behind microservices, breaking down your application into smaller, independent services that each do one thing well. So if you need more guac, you just order another dish rather than replacing the whole thing. Or think of it like the Avengers. You've got Iron Man with his fancy suit, you've got Thor with his hammer, Captain America with his shield. Each hero has their own powers, their own responsibilities, but they come together to save the day. That's the power of microservices. But wait, there's a catch. Like any superhero team, managing microservices come with its own set of challenges. Because suddenly you're dealing with a whole bunch of moving parts, services that need to talk to each other. Data needs to stay consistent as it flows from one component to the next, and things can get messy real quick. There are even stories of companies going overboard with microservices, ending up with what we call microservices sprawl. It's like they took the tapas analogy a little bit too literally and ended up with a buffet of hundreds of tiny dishes, overwhelming and impossible to manage. If you've been in software for a while, you've probably noticed a cycle our industry goes through every 6, 7, 8 years. This tendency to go from centralized to distributed and then back again. It's like a pendulum swinging between these two extremes. It usually starts with a new idea: blockchain, microservices, serverless, Web3, AI. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon and we start building everything around this new idea. But then reality hits and we realize it's not all sunshine and rainbows. We face challenges, we hit roadblocks, and we start going, oh, maybe we are too centralized. Oh, maybe we are too distributed, or whatever it might be at that moment. And suddenly the pendulum starts swinging back the other way. Microservices are just the latest swing back of the pendulum. We already started seeing headlines about how microservices are creating all sorts of problems and how we are becoming too distributed to a point where productivity is suffering. How microservices make it super complicated to go from idea to market, and how you need a ton of resources to run microservices-based application compared to something centralized. So basically, it seems that some big actors in the industry are starting to paint the image that microservices are not the silver bullets we thought they were, and that moving away from microservices is really not a bad idea after all, or at least not as bad as we thought it was at some points. But what I believe is happening is much bigger than this. What I believe is happening is much bigger than this. It's not just about microservices per se. It's about being in an economic downturn or a recession or inflation or however you want to call it. But we already noticed how hiring started to slow down, right? Managers noticed they only have like 10% of the budget they previously had. So naturally, the industry shifts from sky is the limit mentality into how to be more operationally efficient, how to stabilize, how to solidify, how to secure, and how to go to market with the latest CapEx possible. And look, we all know that microservices are not the cheapest to run or to maintain. What's happening is about the industry realizing that the pendulum has swung too far and it's time to bring it back to the center. Everything that we've achieved so far is not just gonna go away, right? It will stay here. Organizations are not just gonna throw away the frameworks and technologies they built, but you will notice that some of it will just get renamed and or replatformed. And this is something funny our industry does sometimes to escape bad reputation a technology had in the past. Like, no one calls Kubernetes a PaaS, a platform as a service, because PaaS sort of had a reputation that it has failed. So companies don't want to be associated with it anymore. No. We call it an orchestration engine, or the new trend of distributed cloud. You know, when public cloud services are moved into private data centers on dedicated hardware to give a cloud-like experience, but locally. Which sounds an awful lot like hybrid cloud to me, or how data protection companies sell their technology being immutable as a new thing. Immutable meaning it cannot be changed once it has been written. Like warm media, anyone? Write once, read many, a technology that existed decades on tape and hard drives before I was even born, but no one wants to be associated with tapes and hard drives anymore, so we call it immutable now. This sounds a bit ranty, so I'll just move on. It's just that when a shift happens and we start moving in the other direction, we humans tend to think along the lines of, we wouldn't be shifting if there wasn't a reason. This failed for a reason, and so we need to move on to something else. But it's not true, right? Macroeconomics, climate, wars, there's all sort of things why trends come and go. It's not always about a technology. But what does all this mean for you? So in times like these, times of big change, that's when you want to start thinking about how what you do impacts the business. Does your expertise impact the top line? Are you there to help growth and innovation? Does it impact the bottom line? Are you there to increase the margins? Are you there to drive better profitability? You know, this industry we're in is super fun and is challenging enough even when things are going great. But during tough times, when you see people get laid off, when you have to take a massive pay cut, maybe your whole division goes away, that impacts you, that impacts your family. You know, that's when you have to start thinking, how comfortable am I working on this bleeding edge new technologies versus working on something more stable, something more mature? What's the level of risk I'm willing to tolerate? The level of risk my family is willing to tolerate. Some people become more risk averse, you know, others become more risk tolerant. But there are a couple of things I am doing I wanted to share with you, and please take this with a grain of salt, right? Everyone has their own realities. But number one, I'm going to get my finances, well, at least, you know, in a place where I could sleep at night. And I know that's not something easy for everybody to do, but at least, you know, try to be more conservative about how you're investing, spending, or maybe try to push for that job that pays more money, whatever that thing might be for you. You know, everybody's situation is different, and this is not Graham Stephan's show, so I'll just leave it at that. The second thing I want you to do is figure out how to become more valuable to your business or to the company you're working with, right? Figure out how to align to the business priorities. It's not always easy, especially if you're working for a startup that is all about innovation, all about challenging the status quo. But take this as an opportunity to ask your boss, what can I do right now to help the business? What numbers are important to the business? You know, I'm personally going through this exercise in my head right now to figure out what areas are going to be more important to the business in the next couple of years as the budgets that our customers usually allocate for research and development might decrease. And next thing is, if things slow down at work, ask yourself, how can I invest in myself a little bit? You know, how can I take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour a day to invest in myself? That investment could be better health, reading, preparing for a certification you've been putting off for a while. It could be starting, you know, a side project, contributing to an existing one. And the last thing I wanted to mention is figure out your network. Figure out the people you know, the people you trust, the people you want to follow and learn from, the people who can lend you a hand, maybe refer you to a nice position, you know, maybe get you an interesting introduction. And of course, if yourself can help refer someone, please go ahead and pay it forward. Now, all this might seem obvious for a lot of you. I just wanted to put it in words. I just want to talk about it and voice, you know, kind of voice these things that have been running in my head, and just, you know, talk about how you can best face these times and what you can do to make the most of them. Knowing is one thing, but acting on it is a whole different story. And that's why I invite you to watch this video where I show you how I went from being a C student, mediocre students, to working as a senior solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, and rules I followed to do so. I'm gonna leave it at this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.